Well, one of the most challenging things is to moderate a session, which is the last one in the Friday afternoon. But I'm pretty sure that the next 60 minutes will keep all of you awake, engaged, and excited. And the topic to be discussed this afternoon is collaboration for inclusive digital finance, how to make it happen. As all of us might know that the development of fintech has been unstoppable. It has been very fast, but it will become even faster. But how fast will that be? And how can fintech entrepreneurs, conventional banks, and even central banks react to that, as well as to accommodate that rapid change? And now I would like to give a big round of applause and a warm welcome for the 4 panelists for this afternoon. Well, it is our honor to have here with us a very high-profile panelists for this afternoon. Please have a seat. สวัสดีครับ Well, once more, we have an honor. First of all, the Governor of Bangkok, Thailand, Dr. Veerathai Santiprabhob. Once more, big round of applause for the Governor. And sitting next to me is the Executive Director and member of the Board of Executive Directors, Bangkok Bank Public Company Limited, Mr. Charamporn Jotikasthira. And next, I'm pretty sure that majority of those who sit in here might have used his service already. Has anyone used the service from Grab Taxi? Raise your hand proudly. And today we have an honor to see the CEO and the co-founder of Grab Taxi Holding Private Company Limited, Mr. Anthony Tan. And last but not least, we have here together with us the co-founder of a Thai well-established fintech company, T2P Company Limited, Mr. Natwut Amornvivat. Well, first of all, thank you very much gentlemen, for joining the session, which is the last one. And I'm pretty sure that all of us has become aware of the speed of the development of fintech in the past decades. But what I heard is that in the next years or even decades, it will become even faster. And now I wish to ask Kun Anthony Tan to give us an overview of what will we see in the next year and even next decade. How fast and how exciting will that be?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Really, really grateful to have the honor to sit beside the governor. So thank you. So a lot of pressure, when a fintech company sits beside the governor or the central bank. He's actually the big boss.
He's the facilitator.
So I guess number one is you're completely right, Dr. Witt. I think it will move. Grab's just celebrated our 7-year anniversary just 2 days ago. And we truly believe that the pace of innovation will completely change exponentially the next 7 years, especially in fintech, payments, lending, microinsurance. And let me share why. We believe that if you take Grab, for example, we process up till to date, we process 4 petabytes of data. So 4 petabytes, it's like 53 hours of Korean drama high definition into your mobile phone, right? Or 2 trillion pages, 2 trillion pages of plain text that goes through. So tremendous amount of data. But it's not just about the data. And every day we process another 40 terabytes of data. The data allows you to create an opportunity that was never seen before. And that opportunity is to provide a financial inclusion or really lending or providing credit access in a formal, transparent way without increasing household debt. Don't worry, Governor. Without increasing household debt and moving them from the informal loan shark category, where interest rates are 1% daily, to a place where it's much more transparent, trackable, and help these people access what you and I are used to accessing and giving them that benefit as well.
Wonderful. Well, you give an overview. And now let's turn the questions to a person who is a veteran in banking industry. He has been in the industry for how many decades? I don't ask years, but I ask decades. But he's a veteran. And I wish to ask you, in the past year, people, especially conventional banking industry, monitored the development of fintech and said, wow, it's fast. How do you see the development in the next years and the next decades? Kunok?
All right, I have to look back a bit. You have to understand that, for example, a session yesterday where Mr. Sashi Verma, the Transportation of London, was sitting here with among the central bankers and the banks and the major transportation, which are the major operators. And what he said is that we are on the stage, are the one who provide the solution, and the one who are not on the stage are the customer who receive our products. Now, if you looked at it in the past, the bankers and regulators and major IT companies are the one who collaborate together and try to come up with a solution, a new solution every so often. But it was so slow, and it's come at a pace that they like, that they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let's look at how many people are literate on the software business at that time. The very small number, especially when I start my career at the IT of one of the bank. Very few software engineers per se. But if you look at it today, you see new solutions every day from various, not only financials, on everything. Now that's because there's so many literate people, so many innovators that can create new things. So in the past, the solution was manufactured by only few major corporates, entity, including banks. But now, all the good things, even duplicate of good things of many, for example, biometrics. There must be thousands of biometrics, right? But in the past, we manufacture one biometric for a solution for someone. But today, the bank will have to be able to accommodate so many. There may be one biometrics today, there may be 2 or 3 tomorrow. So the pace of the change as fast as the number of the specialists that create today. And I think everyone can see it. It's so fast. And in the past, whatever the organization, the bank or major entity like a financial institution, insurance, etc. Now we have to rethink again that because of all the new innovation is coming like a floodgate, through the floodgate.
In the next round, I will ask you, how can, for example, conventional banking industry work harmoniously together with a newly emerged fintech as well? Yeah? And now let's turn the questions to Kun Natwut. He's a very well-established Thai entrepreneur in fintech, but I'm pretty sure that not all of us might know in details about your company, T2P, is doing. Can you elaborate that in the context of fast-moving or fast-developing fintech industry here in Thailand?
Sure. Okay. I have a slide for it. So basically, what we are doing is that we are smaller size fintech startup. So we try to position differently, right? We do not play in a B2C, but we are doing a B2B2C. So we basically enabling the corporations to be able to reach their customer base using our 4 building blocks. So the first one is e-wallet, which we get the license from BOT. And then we have a loyalty system, we have AI, and then we have lending. And I believe that this positioning is allow us to be able to have a place in the market. Otherwise, if we are in B2C, we will get burned, and we are too small to do that. So what we are doing is that, for example, especially if we talk about inclusion, I like to, for example, take the example of SCG. SCG has been wanted to interact with their contractors, with their small mom and pop store, with their constructor, like small one-guy shop, right? They want to be able to pay commission to this guy, but they cannot do it because they are a construction company. So we enabling this system for them by being able to allow SCG to pay commission to distributors, to the mason, to the carpenter, and then once they get paid by digital, then they continue to, basically they shift from physical to a digital world using the help of the partnership between banks, between us, between T2P, and enabling being pushed by corporations. So more and more that we are using this model to go into unbanked segment. So SCG was one of them. We recently just launched for farmers with one of the very large agricultural conglomerates together with the bank. And we have been doing that in Myanmar as well, to a certain degree with DTAC. So basically, we feel that from doing B2B2C allow small fintech players like us to be able to have a niche in the market. And for example, and especially if we talk about inclusion, right? We've been among industry, we are trying to push people into, from unbanked, change from cash into the cashless, right? And we talk about it, and most of the effort is being done by the supply side, right? But consumer, they don't have much cash in the first place, right? And they get paid by cash. If they get paid by cash, they spend by cash. Why they have to shift from cash into electronic, and they pay by cash again?
That's double effort, huh?
Right? That's more effort, right? So we believe that once we do this kind of model, if they start getting paid by digital, then they will get into this digital, virtual cycle. Or even we talk about lending, they will get access to the source of fund by digital. Then they will continue to go digital. But if they don't get paid by digital, it's very hard for them to shift into a cashless society. So I like to explain that part of our business that we are helping in terms of inclusion.
By the way, how can I call your business? Pocketing business or enabler or what kind of business? If I have to give a definition.
It's more enabler. It's more an enabler of the ecosystem.
Yeah. In the next round, I might ask you, because there might be some factors that could be the obstacles to proceed further. For example, the fintech literacy from people or from stakeholders and so on. We'll address that a bit later on. But now a question for the governor. Since we are saying the pace of the development of the fintech in the next years, in the next decades, will be supersonic or speed of light, are you happy or are you worried? Sorry to ask, but...
Well, thanks very much, Dr. Vitt. But before I answer your questions, I'd like to thank the audience here and also the audience who has been following us on Facebook Live throughout this two-day event. So thank you very much for being with us until the very last sessions of the Bangkok Fintech Fair. And I think this gives us a lot of encouragement to the work that we do together with the Thai banking industry and the Thai fintech industry in promoting the fintech ecosystem. Going to your questions, when we talk about technology disrupting many business, okay, in the world of democratizations, in the world of distributed ledger technology, the business that has the word central in its name will also become disrupted, and perhaps disrupted the most. That is central banking. We're talking about banks being disrupted. Yeah? If banks being disrupted, central banking definitely, if we don't change, will become disrupted. And there is only one way. We just have to embrace financial technology in our work so that we can carry on with our mandate to deliver financial stability to the country, to deliver financial services that are competitive, productive, and inclusive to the society at large. And I guess we have changed quite quite a lot at the Bank of Thailand during the past 2-3 years since we embarked on this fintech journey. The way we think of regulations also need to be changed in a big way. For instance, if you may recall, Kun Charamporn may recall from his old days working in the IT department at a bank. When you look at regulations on IT-related services that banks can do, the central bank anywhere would say is that you are a commercial bank. You're not supposed to do anything but commercial banking, okay? And so very limited. When it comes to IT-related services, our thinking has always been principal-agent relationship. The banks are principal, and the agents are the IT outsourcing parties. And the regulations will be very easy. Banks, you have to require that your outsourcing party meet the requirements of the central bank. Whatever requirements, the outsourcing party will have to meet the central bank's regulation. But in the current environment and in the future environment, it's not the principal-agent relationships when we talk about tech and bank relationship. It could be more principal-to-principal relationships. If you're talking about tech companies like Grab, or we talk about Facebook, talk about Amazons, they're much larger than the banks, and the banks could indeed become the agent, not the principal. So we have to change the way we look at the relationships in this IT-related business. We talk about the platform business, when we talk about the data environments, it's more of the principal-to-principal relationships that we have to look at. And that will also change the way we think of the risks involved. Yeah. That's one example of the big concept that regulators have to rethink in order to promote the ecosystem whereby financial institutions can work with tech company to move the fintech ecosystem, to advance the fintech ecosystem in a big way. Another example, the regulatory framework in any jurisdiction can be categorized as entity-based regulatory framework. We have many licenses: bank license, finance company license, nano finance license, credit card company license. It's entity-based. But when we talk about technology advancements, the border between products have become blurred with technology. So we have to shift from entity-based to more like activity-based. If different providers provide similar services, they should be subject to the same types of regulatory requirements. Okay. And that's also a very big shift in the mindsets of regulators. So there are a lot of changes in our mindset that we need to do to meet our objectives of advancing the fintech ecosystem for the productivity, inclusivity, and immunity of our financial service industry.
It's very challenging. It's just I don't know whether I use the right word, paradigm shift. Everything seems to have shifted unpredictably. I mean, no one can predict the future. And since we have the two entrepreneurs from FinTech today, I wish to ask both of you. Once we talk, the speed will be fast. The data circulated in each day will be huge, unpredictably huge. But people will think, well, in the next chapter, what kind of direction or how will the FinTech will grow, in which particular direction? I would like to ask Natwut first, in terms of the way that FinTech is growing, emerging quite in numbers. In which particular direction that you think they will grow?
Wow, okay. We talk about looking to the future. It's going to be quite difficult for me to predict. But I think just to follow up on the question of how do we make a setting or environment that help create a collaboration or advancement of FinTech. Collaboration is great. If you talk about the incumbents working with the startups or incumbents working, creating a small but more nimble technology development arms, and then collaborate, right? Or creating an ecosystem that can make the transaction seamless. That's fine. But I think to have just the collaboration framework is probably not enough. We need a sense of nervousness.
Can you?
We need a sense of threat, right? Who would collaborate if you don't feel any threat to your business model, right? So there must be some competitions that keep people on their feet all the time, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't collaborate. So collaboration doesn't come out of nowhere. It's come from necessity, right? So I think the future of fintech or development or advancement of fintech has to come from a mix of collaboration framework, making sure the ecosystem working well together, but with the injection of disruption, with the setting that allow for certain disruption, so that it keep people either competing or collaborating. So that's what I think it's going forward. That's how we're going forward.
Well, Kun Anthony, I mean, in terms of direction, I mean, in the past you were, application calling taxi, but after you become, one day you become super apps. Yeah, and in the future you might develop something unpredictable for every one of us. In which particular direction? Because since the governor said it's activity-based and no longer entity-based, but we need to know first what kind of activities will emerge in the future. Can you give us the hint into the future? What kind of direction should we look at fintech?
I don't have a crystal ball, first of all. So, but I do agree with the governor. I think we should look at even beyond activity-based, just customer-centric base. I think if you look at a customer, what does a customer need? I think customers, regardless of whether they're here in this conference or if they are like our driver partners or our food merchants by the street side stalls, they have very similar needs. They need lending, they need insurance, they need a safe store of value. So I think Governor was very correct to say we shouldn't anchor ourselves in, hey, we are trying to be a insurance company, a lending company, a consumer finance. That's not how we should be restricting ourselves. I think how we should be thinking about is customer first and then work backwards. So, it was a very, very good point as well that we talked about competition. I think competition is a very good thing, but I don't believe that it has to be disruptive. In fact, the only competition we should kill is cash, because cash actually has a tremendous cost to GDP, right? The cost of managing cash, the cost of transporting cash, the cost of the informal economy that the internal revenue can't track, that's all real cost. Now, how do we think about serving the customer and killing cash? I think that is what I see the future of many startups here, where you can help our customers, whether it's, I'll give you a story. I was just talking to one of our drivers, and before Grab, 5 years ago, him and the two children were out on the streets, no home. Today, 5 years later, that driver he's a driver leader. He has 700 drivers under him. He now has the ability to lend money to provide for, because we can issue some type of scoring where we believe because of his hours, we know through our AI algorithms, we can determine he's a safe person to give a laptop, to lend, to buy a laptop for his daughter. And now he's done so well, and he believes his biggest gift is to give education to his daughter, so we could finance the education to go to university, right? That is life-changing, and that's what I think we should focus on.
Kun Anthony, it seems that all the society which to become a cashless society, people still stick to cash, or they transform, or they digitalize themselves. I mean, for example, in Singapore, can you give us, have they been fully digitalized, or they still stick with cash?
If you look at whether it's Singapore, whether it's the States, whether it's China, I think in Singapore, literally, we can go around just with plastics. You don't need cash. And of course the GrabPay app, right? Plastic and GrabPay will basically cover everything. In the States, I basically have plastics. In China, you just have your mobile phone. I think it provides tremendous convenience. I think the adoption is tremendous for customers. I think merchants see their business grow. I think a lot of the informal cash gets taken away. So again, all that subject to us making sure that we as fintech players have the responsibility to take care of people's data. We have the responsibility to make sure that we provide the right cyber security to ensure that people's PII, personal information, is protected.
Thank you, Kun Anthony. The Governor, it seems that you have some points concerning this.
I just would like to echo Anthony's and Natwut's points on threat from competitors. Threats from competitors is more effective than threat from regulator. I can assure you that. I can assure you that. And this is very important, answering your questions of trying to predict into the future which fintech products, which fintech direction we should expect to see. In the world of very fast changing technology, it's very, very difficult to predict or to pinpoint a particular product or particular service. What is more important is the point that Kun Natwut and Anthony has mentioned about. It's creating an ecosystem whereby we have incentive structure to drive for ongoing innovation. And that can come only with a certain degree or a good degree of competition. Competition will drive for ongoing innovations. Okay. For fintech or for technology in the technology space, and this is the point that regulator has to be very mindful of. Most of the tech company, they would like to enter the market first because there's a first mover advantage. Yeah? But there's a possibility that will undermine ongoing competition down the road. Because if there's a first mover advantage coming into the system with its own format, with its own whatever that can lock in the system, okay, it will be very difficult to promote ongoing innovation. Okay. So what is very critical for the future of fintech is to make sure that we have an ecosystem whereby there is an appropriate degree of competition that will drive ongoing innovation.
We'll talk about how to enrich ecosystems in order to promote fintechs, in a later round. But now, since we talk about cash, which is, of course, to stick with cash is more or less like an obstacle to move into a cashless society. Kun Charamporn, since you have huge experience in banking industry, do you know why, especially in Thailand, we need to have cash? Yeah, and we still stick with cash, and we doesn't seem to be able to move into cashless society completely like other society. Are there any reason behind that?
Well, there may be some reason, but before that, I'd like to expand on the point of Anthony. I believe cash erases all the information. Basically, if a small store, mom and pop store, do their business and once a week come to the bank and deposit money in the bank, what information do you see? Everything is netting in there, right? You don't see what's the revenue, what's the expense, how many transactions, how many people come to buy things at the shops, and they probably use cash to pay whatever the supply along the way. All the information disappear, and these information are so valuable to themselves in order to do their further business, for example, getting more lending. The reason why the financial institution cannot include them in their customer base is because the financial institution doesn't know how to measure risk, because information are not there. You come in with a big blob of cash and we don't know what happened. But what if all the information that comes along is all transactional and non-cash, which means all electronics, and all the revenue, everyone comes to the shop at what time, buying what, and then paying who, when, etc. These are all the information that for the risk analysis, they can analyze everything, and for the risk taker, they can start to make decision of whether is it a good shop, a good person, does he have ability to pay or not, etc. These are information. That's why there's very little inclusivity in the system of cash. But once it's become electronic, now there's a possibility. But if you ask me point blank of what may inhibit, well, what we need to do is encourage electronics, right? Cashless. But some of the fear today that I heard about is they're afraid of somebody or some government entity may use information against them.
Use information against them.
Yeah, so they know much more about that person. One day I went on a taxi to our friendly country down south, a small island down south, and the taxi driver said, "Oh, the government know too much." Okay. So
too transparent, so to say.
So these are the things that we have to make sure that all the information for them does not turn back against them.
Well, once we talk about the ecosystem, I'm pretty sure that when people talk about, well, ecosystem, different people could think of different elements in the ecosystems. And once I saw the slide from Kun Charamporn earlier on, can you elaborate in terms of, ecosystem that is surrounding fintech and so on? What are key elements that you, from your perspective, think of?
Okay, can I have my slides, the slides too? Well, basically, because of the technology now on slide 2, this is slide 3. Going back one more.
Backward.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Basically, because of there's so many innovation now by fintechs. If you look at the ability to provide all the new services, now there are few by fintechs more than the traditional big technology companies. Now, therefore, what happened is that the bank who traditionally was the main provider, now they have to think themselves as a platform in such a way that any fintech, any solution will have to be plugging in very fast in order to provide any new features. Let me go back to the biometrics. I saw downstairs yesterday that there was like reading the vein, the palm, the facial recognition, etc. All these is just authentication. Now, if there are hundreds of these, how fast can the bank connect to these? So interoperability is the key. In the past, everything is customized for a bank, but now the connector, the conduit will have to be more standard. So there's no more customization, there's more standard, there's more interoperability, be driving towards API-based, etc., so that we can include so many innovations into the system. So if you look at this chart, on the left side, these are the enabler that provide the bank to provide service. To the right-hand side, which are the customer. So the traditional customer are on the extreme right-hand side, like the customer or the society. In the past, the solution used to be provided by the bank, plus major technology companies on the top left, and the regulators. But now, the bottom left, the fintechs are the key, and there are thousands of them. How can you get the culture of the bank and the bank staff, bank business, to learn, to know what the fintechs is all about, what solutions, what innovation can help the bank, and then technology-wise on the IT, we have to have a platform that can connect them into the system so fast within weeks. And then eventually you can provide the service to the the end game consumer, or your corporate client, like big bank, like Bangkok Bank. The corporate is also our client. The business, like the SME, our clients, and all the supply chain between the corporate, SME, and the customer will be beneficial to whatever we can provide.
Thank you. In the later round, I might ask you, where should the bank position yourself in this ecology in order to work harmoniously with the development of the fintech? Now, Kun Natwut, from your perspective, there has been certain attempts in order to move up the ecosystem to promote the fintech. What are key elements of ecosystem that you have in your mind? And how far have you seen that progress? Have it been done satisfactorily? What are the next steps that you should do in order to promote the entire ecosystem?
I think it's been a great effort by all the regulators, especially BOT, if we are in...
Especially BOT?
Yeah, especially if we are in the e-wallet payment side. But also I'm talking about SEC and on the insurance side as well. So, I mean, it's very hard to predict in the future, right? What the technology is going to bring. So regulators always have to sort of very dynamic, right? So I think in terms of catching up to what these technologies have been enabling us, I think they have done a tremendous job try to do that. Still, I think in terms of what we have seen is in terms of the agenda of enabling a smooth ecosystem, right? A smooth process, from KYC to from data privacy to payment, all these has to be driven on the top government level. For example, if we say, okay, we have a good payment system, but the KYC has been very strict, for example, that will sort of disrupt the flow, right? So I think one of the things that quite important is the harmony of a certain a coordination between policy. Not talking about one regulator, but I'm talking about the overall.
Not only one regulator.
Of course, because it's fall into different kind of laws, different kind of ownership of implementing, enforcing the law. So I think that is one of the things that quite hard to do, but it's something that very important for the advancement of fintech.
Kun Anthony, the same question to you about the ecosystem in order to promote the future fintechs. What are key elements in the ecosystem in order to promote fintech even further?
I would say number one is partnerships. That would be number one. So what do I mean? So for example, for Grab, we partnered to create a local JV with Central Group in Thailand. So localize yourself as quickly as possible, right? This morning I was with Kun Tot and Kun Yon, just talking about and focusing on the business and how we serve customers in Thailand. Number two is we partnered K-Bank. Again, I completely agree that we should be, the theme of this is collaborating together, and how do you work hand in hand with the local big banks. Hopefully one day we'll also get Bangkok Bank with us as well. And I'm looking at the two key people here. And with K-Bank, I can say we've launched great driver leasing. We've launched financing for our driver partners. For example, we always say the phone is now the best fishing rod you can get, right? Because you cannot expect the government to give, even if you're the poorest of poor, you cannot expect the government just to hand out and throw fish to you. If we can give you and finance you the best Samsung phone, and it can help you get jobs better, more accurately, you will be able to earn and become your own micro-entrepreneur. You become proud of what you do. You get yourself out of debt, right? And that is what we want to encourage. So partnering local banks to really serve our ecosystem. And thirdly, there's nothing like partnering BOT and the governor. I think we have a lot to learn. I think being a fast-moving startup, we can make mistakes, and we will be the first to admit we always do. But the key is that we own up to our mistakes and say, I'm sorry, I own up to it, and then I'm learning, and with BOT and the other regulatory bodies, we want to just partner hand in hand to serve Thailand better.
Thank you. Dr. Veerathai, I come to this. When people talk about the central bank, they talk about regulator. But at the same time, to empower the fintech to develop even further, you need to have a role also as a facilitator. How will you balance these two roles at the same time? What is the key equilibrium that you would think it's an ideal, optimal point of balance?
It's a moving equilibrium that we have to deal with. Now, because technology moves very quickly, and when we move from one stage to another stage, the ecosystem changes, and we also need to adapt to the changing environments that we deal with. The many roles that the Bank of Thailand has played, being a regulator is the main role. We also play the role of enabler, play the role of catalyst in making infrastructures happening. I think playing different roles is very important for someone who has ability to regulate, to convene, and also to create the right incentive structure in the ecosystem. And I'll come back to this point again and again, creating the right incentive structure to promote competition that will lead to ongoing innovations for the benefits of the people. That's basically the guiding principle that we have adopted all along this fintech journey. Going forward, there are a lot of roles that we have to play as a catalyst or as an enabler to create an ecosystem. Going back to my opening remarks yesterday, the next stage for fintech agenda for Thailand is the fintech ecosystem. We have seen many companies like Natwut, many banks that have spent a lot of efforts investing on new technology. But this we can't rely on bank by bank or firm by firm's initiative to leapfrog along this fintech journey. Ecosystem is the most important. That's why we have selected the topics of collaborations for the future of finance as the theme for this year Bangkok Fintech Fair. So starting from basic infrastructure, like what we did with Prompt Pay, is the faster pay system. Indeed, is the world's fastest growing faster pay system. Okay, within 2 years, we have about 50 million IDs, linking bank accounts with
50 million already.
50 million.
That's huge.
And I like the QR code that we launched, the standardized QR code. It's the first countries in ASEAN to launch standardized QR code. And we have about 5 million accepting points now using the standardized QR codes. And as you might have seen from the press conference just before these sessions, that we're also moving to prompt QR, the dynamic QR, that it has a lot more potential. And this is the roles that we saw ourselves as being a catalyst, making sure that infrastructure like this could start really quickly, and also becoming an open infrastructure. This is very important. The architecture that we put in place needs to be open infrastructure so that adoption can be quick, and making sure that this is an infrastructure that will be open to all. Subject to meeting the security requirements, and you pay certain types of fees to cover the maintenance cost of the system. But different operators can join in. Banks, non-banks, telco companies, e-wallets can come in and leverage on the infrastructure. Going forward, we have to talk about data infrastructure. This is something that is important. It is missing in Thailand. Standardized API for data sharing, and that would be also be very important, because in the world of digital finance, it's not only the flow of money that is important, the flow of data is equally important, like Khun Charamporn mentioned. It would be the foundation for many digital financial services. So infrastructure, very important. Creating right incentive structure is very important. Making sure that whatever different systems that different players introduce into the market, they are interoperable. What we don't want to have is fragmented payment system, fragmented financial system that will that will be big hurdles for fintech developments, for creating a fintech ecosystem.
Well, thank you, the Governor. And from conventional banking industry, Kun Charamporn, of course, I mean, the world has been changing very fast, but I'm pretty sure that, I mean, banks also try to be also the catalyst of change or accelerator sometimes. What is the role of conventional banks in order to be part of this further development or further progress of fintech? That's both of you go hand in hands together harmoniously.
Well, first of all, banks and major corporates start off with millions and millions of customers. So that we start off with a customer base, but yet the fintech are the one who has solutions, or has the know-how to provide the solution for us. So the fintech, if you ask them to start off alone, it may take years to reach a scale. But perhaps by collaborating with financial institutions like banks or major corporates, that's how you can provide the new solution to the mass public fast. So a program like the InnoHelp program of the Bangkok Bank that try to let the fintechs learn. We have 8 fintechs per year to accelerate a program for 3 months to learn how bank can adopt, or the bank will have to learn what the 8 fintechs are doing, etc. If we can match it, then basically we accelerate the growth of that fintech right away. But the more importantly, I think there will be the tri-party, the combination of banks, major corporates, and fintech. This collaboration can go a long way. For example, CJD.com with a Bangkok Bank, and as an example, with a Dolphin wallet, so we can provide solutions for the customers. Now, how can the three would cooperate together? So let's go back to the IT solutions. That it has to be interoperable. It could be API, etc. And actually, always the last transaction of any customer who wants to do something, always a payment, right? So at the end of the day, the bank will be the infrastructure behind almost everything. So a combination of the bank behind the every transaction, and the corporate who provide the goods and service to the clients, and interoperability, connect them together through the corporate system like the central JD and the apps on the hands of the customer. Those will be one of the models going forward. And hopefully with a favorable regulatory framework and security framework, the trust will be there. And going back to the governor point that we didn't talk too much about the data. You mentioned how many petabytes data you have? 4 petabytes, right. So basically, again, bank is a trusted partner. So perhaps bank can play a role in a place to, for the trusted place to keep data for the customer in the future as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We spent almost 50 minutes already, and there are some questions from the floor that is sent through to the BOT's iPad here. Some of the questions is relating to Libra, and some of them is about, let me start with this one. How can fintech help ease cross-border payment which have different rules and regulations? I mean, the world has become, truly globalized, internationalized. Any one of us will take this challenge. How can fintech help ease cross-border payment which have different rules and regulations?
So, again, there's no one size fits all. How we have attempted to at least serve our customers is we think about it. For example, in Singapore today, if you have a GrabPay wallet, within 2, maybe 3 clicks, max 3 clicks, You could have a Singapore, actually with your GrabPay wallet, you can have a MasterCard virtual card in your Grab app. Now with that same GrabPay MasterCard, you can go to any country across Southeast Asia, and it operates as if it operates like you have a GrabPay wallet in any country around this region. So that's one way. Again, much better, much more favorable exchange rates, much more extremely seamless from a customer perspective. That is one way of giving customers that sense of security that they know, and then complete transparency when they pull up, their in the app. They pull up, they can track all their transactions and see how much is being spent and the exchange rates accordingly. So full transparency. Again, constantly in everything we do, it must be transparent and it must always be building trust.
Transparent and trust. The governor, please.
There is one big, I think, panel and big showcase on ASEAN payment connectivity in this Bangkok Fintech Fair, and in that room we have showcased many examples of payment connectivity across ASEAN, leveraging on different fintechs. Okay. For instance, before most of the cross-border payments would have to go through the bank's network that's relies mainly on SWIFT, and that's the centralized concept with one, SWIFT as a central switch, basically. But with the world of blockchain, distributed ledger technology, there have been many applications using DLT and blockchain as the backbone between banks or between money transfer business. Okay. And this is a real case that also already happening in ASEAN. In many cases in ASEAN, and the cost of cross-border payment has come down substantially. And it's also a much better, much higher degree of accuracy and much higher speed. Before we were talking about 2-3 days, right, for cross-border transfer, particularly B2B to be executed or to be completed. But now we're talking about matters of seconds, and there are also quite a number of showcases downstairs. I mean, at the booths as well. If any of you is interested.
Thank you. Now it's the question for Grab. I have not been to Singapore for some while, but this is a question specifically for Singapore. How does Grab plan to deal with majority of food stalls in hawker centers in Singapore, who still mostly accept only cash?
So again, it doesn't only apply to Singapore. We apply it whether it's Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand. Again, as I was sharing with the governor, we believe that adoption must come from cashless adoption must come from both working with in central malls type of environments, but Thai people, for example, or like Singaporeans, they eat both in malls and also on street side food, right? Hawkers in Singapore. So we must be able to, again, take a customer first approach, whether the customer is served in a central mall or street side, no difference. And that's why we love seeing that the dynamic QR is being launched. I think the dynamic QR is the path to move to faster. And again, why I'm a big believer of it is when I look at a merchant, if you stand behind the counter, I'm sure many of you pay, whether using cashless or... The worst thing is standing there. A merchant doesn't want to look at you, and just while you wait, and then he takes your QR, you pull out your phone QR, and then you type in numbers, and he's like, hey, hello, I got a business here to run, like, get out of my face, right? So you just want people to come, pay and go, pay and go. So I think the ability to develop, whether it's for hawkers, whether it's for street side food in Bangkok, you must be able to create a system that gives you tremendous speed so that you provide value as a payment system to the merchant, and the merchant will be happy. NPS, customer satisfaction will be higher for the merchant. Customer satisfaction for the customer will be good, and of course for companies like us.
Thank you. I think that we might have a questions of time for another questions concerning Libra, which has been discussed quite recently. So, the question is, many authorities or regulator in many countries have expressed their views upon Libra. And how about the governor of the Bank of Thailand or the Bank of Thailand?
Yes, I get asked in the morning, in the afternoon, during the past 3 days.
I know,
on
but
this
I have
issue.
to read that.
But before I answer Libra, have anyone heard of Lydia? It's the first coin ever in the world. And we have one down here in the museum. So make sure that you take a look at the first coin of the world, one of the very first coin of the world before we talked about Libra. And you will see the money requires evolution. We're not talking about technology alone. It comes, when we talk about money, when we talk about currency, you have to deal with confidence, trust of the public. Okay? We see a possibility that the business model for something like Libra can bring benefits to the people at large. Okay? But we also have to be very careful with the risks involved with Libra, technology-wise, governance-wise, and also issues related to the like of anti-money laundering, data privacy protection, which is very important. So far, we haven't seen the operational framework behind. There's a concept that has been announced, and we have been talking to different partners involved with Libra projects, and we're waiting to see the full operations, the operational modules behind Libra. But I think we should be exciting about new technologies like this, and I very much like the word that Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, has responded to this issue. He said, he accepts it with an open mind, but not an open door. Okay. Yeah. And that is very true for regulator who would like to embrace technology. Okay. We look at it as one of the technology that has huge potential. But there's no open door policy. We have to they have to make sure that they meet all the regulatory requirements. Okay. For countries like Thailand, don't get too excited that Libra will very soon come and replace Thai baht. No way, no way, no way. Libra might gain big popularity in countries where the people don't have confidence in the national currency, no confidence in the central bank, no confidence in the macroeconomic policies. In countries where the value of the currencies becomes very volatile with hyperinflation, dollarized economy, so there's a high possibility that digital asset, digital currency like Libra might be more credible. Libra might be popular in countries where payment system, electronic payment system is not well developed. So people see it as a way for convenience payment. But in countries like Thailand, I'm sure that the banks and the payment systems, we have come a long way, and very convenient. We have the faster pay system that has the lowest cost to the users in the world. It basically is a free service. Yeah. I think with those two conditions, and thirdly, Libra, the unit of account will not be in Thai baht. The unit of account will be something like SDR. So the value will fluctuate on a daily basis depending on the exchange rates of the reserve currencies. So it might not be good for someone to use it for local transactions. And lastly, money is always about trust. Okay? If the public have trust in the national banking system, putting most of the deposits in there, okay, and they can transact very conveniently at no cost with the payment system linking with the banking system, why would you want to transfer your money into a wallet? You don't know where it is run, where it operates, and who governs it. And the unit of account also fluctuate on a daily basis.
Trust. Thank you. I'm sure this is the last one because the Bangkok FinTech Fair will be over in the next hours. So, and this is the last round anyway. So I wish we had much more time, but unfortunately time seems to be over. But anyway, I think there should be time for some final remarks. for every one of us will be pretty short. Just call into action to ensure that we leave this room with some powerful message. 1 minute ish. Sorry.
I'm going to do much shorter than that. So I think basically collaboration is very important, but it has to be based or driven by a healthy competition.
Healthy competition, Kun Anthony.
Work with regulators.
Wonderful. พี่นก คุณจรัมพร เชิญเลยครับ
Well, I like what Anthony mentioned earlier about the customer needs is a key. Now, if there's a customer needs that is still not fully satisfied, that's an opportunity for the fintech, but yet that's a threat to the incumbents.
Thank you. Last but not least, the governor, Dr. Veerathai.
I think ecosystem is very important. We have to look beyond yourself on this fintech journey and try to make sure that in a small open economy like us, creating ecosystem is very, very important. And if I may have the last word, just want to say thank you to all of you for participating in our Bangkok Fintech Fair 2019. I hope that this is something that the Bank of Thailand can contribute to the fintech ecosystem, creating a platform like this, creating a momentum that we all can become very excited and also learn from one another in getting along with our fintech journey. And lastly, I would like to thank my BOT team, the organizing committee, for your tireless and tremendous efforts in putting this event together. Thanks to all of you in the yellow shirts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause for the four gentlemen upon the stage here. Inspiration, contribution, information, valuable knowledge. Thank you very much, the four gentlemen. And now